Hi, how are you, Hunter?
I am so good. How are you?
I am like, how am I going to meet the bar? You set the bar pretty high for me right there.
Well, I know you are expert at limbo. How low can you go? You're going to be able to just like go right through that bar, no problem.
Love it. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm so excited to be here. What a joy and privilege it is to be here today.
Yeah, it's a privilege to have you, my dear. So the people know we talk a lot, don't we, Sarah? We
Mhm.
talk
We're in the slacks.
slacks together. Yeah. So I know the story, but tell us a little bit about you, Sarah, for our friends that are maybe just getting to know you. Where do you come from? How'd you end
Mhm.
up in this wacky AI space?
Mhm.
A bit about you.
Yeah, so I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. If there is anyone, locals, let's connect and say hi. But we actually moved here from Australia. Before that, we lived in New Zealand. I was born in the Middle East, so my husband's from the UK. So we're from all over. We're currently calling Raleigh, North Carolina our home. And yeah, in terms of the whole AI space and what I'm doing in this space, so I'm the founder and CEO of an AI agency called Mavenly, and we essentially help companies build AI workflows and agentic workflows as we're getting into to help them scale. And so we're doing that in two ways, whether it's, doing this for companies or teaching their teams and individuals how to do that themselves.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So we're gonna get a little tidbit of little taste test of how you're doing that.
Okay.
So we know that AI is changing industries from the inside out. I know you had Mavenly before AI,
Hmm.
so I know it's taken a big shift internally for you, and now you're sharing that knowledge. So how do you see this shifting in the landscape with women in tech? Is this an opportunity or is this a threat? And how can women position themselves to really take advantage of what AI has to offer?
I'm going to say this with a certain amount of honesty, but it is both, right? It is both. I think we can't get across the fact that we are at this critical juncture of, of how the way that we live and we work is changing. And I'm seeing this every day on a practical basis with the companies that we work with who are implementing these technologies and how, work is shifting. And, there are some statistics around that are concerning around, basically the jobs that are traditionally held by women have a 40% higher chance of being automated and automated out. But then at the same time, there is this boom that's happening within the whole AI space where they're expecting around 97 million new jobs being created by AI. So I guess the conversation comes to, well, what do we do with this? How do we choose to operate within this new paradigm? Are we going to accept that the way that we are working is going to change, and are we going to um, have the internal kind of drive to be able to chart our own path in this field? And that's what I personally did. So I'm not a technical person. Have never in my life written a line of code. I just saw that this is where the world is emerging to, and decided that I wanted to be part of it. And so I'm encouraging people to kind of not let, I want to say this with some empathy, because everybody that I've spoken to who is doing big things in AI, have had this moment where, it could have been in a ChatGPT experience, it could have been a mid-journey experience, where they started playing around with this technology and they felt equal amounts of like fear and awe at the same time. Have you had that moment, Hunter? Do you remember that moment for yourself?
It's daily, still happens all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just want to normalize that as well for people who are kind of like, just starting to look into this and seeing how things are changing, and questioning their part to play in this, and what does that mean for me and for my work. I want to like just normalize that this is a normal feeling. Everybody that I've spoken to has had that moment. Um, and then the next step is like, well, what do you do with it, right? Do you stay in that fear, and are you going to stay kind of like confined to that, or are you going to, work with it, work with what we've got and create something different for yourself out of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How can you speak to, Sara? Because I completely identify with that level of like, oh my gosh, this is an amazing and terrifying moment early on when I first had it. And then the shift now of getting comfortable with that feeling in a weird way, being comfortable with the uncomfortable. How do you navigate that as things are continually changing? You know, we'll build one thing and then tomorrow, oh, one of the bigger companies releases it. So how do you keep that pace up for yourself without it letting bog you down?
Yeah, I think the the phrase there's nothing constant but change, or something like that. It's something like that has never held more true. And, you know, speaking of like skill sets and what it's going to take to thrive in this new world, your ability to just accept that things are going to change and change quickly, and being comfortable with change, and being a kind of person that can adapt, is one of the most incredible skills that you can have in this new kind of world that we're emerging to. And so I guess part of it, to answer your question, is just to be immersed in it and see it. And then, you build that muscle of being able to go, okay, so I've just gotten used to this, and here's something new. And like, and start to enjoy the process of being challenged and learning, and, um, having the flexibility to move with how this world is moving.
I
Yeah.
love that. Bringing some serious Buddha nature. Accepting change is the only
Right.
constant. That's nice. I'm
Yeah.
here for that. And I love too to speak to, you said earlier that you've never written a line of code and yet you're up to speed. So I imagine you have some help as well.
Mm-hmm. So I work with some incredible people, as you know, Hunter. And we, I mean, none of us are coders, but there there isn't a need necessarily, and this is, I guess, some touching on this conversation around what are the opportunities now that we have with this technology, is that it's never been more accessible for people to start companies, to launch products, to fulfill their dreams. All of the kind of barriers that have traditionally been there for underrepresented groups, in terms of access to capital, in terms of access to, education and technology skills, in terms of access to all of the traditional things are kind of crumbling a little bit with this technology, and it will continue to do so. And so you are able to now launch products and businesses without, necessarily, and tech enabled businesses without necessarily knowing how to code, just knowing how to work with some no code platforms and maybe a little bit of prompt engineering, and you can launch some products. So that is the opportunity as well for people who are, you know, um, have always wanted this space to be able to bring their dreams to life. Like, that is becoming available for people now. And I think we're going to see a shift from, you know, um, people wanting to start businesses, but they're able to because of the power that this technology can bring to them.
Yeah. So I'm curious, for folks that maybe this is new and they haven't experimented with AI yet, how is AI? You mentioned you don't need to write code, you could do things in low code.
Mhm.
What are some key ways that this is leveling the playing field, but also what are some key barriers for women to keep in mind as they move through this industry?
So if if people haven't, like, I feel like a great entryway into AI is ChatGPT. Um, because it just gives you that initial understanding of like the power behind this technology, and gives you that kind of moment of fear and awe. I
Mhm.
believe. So I think that's a great way to start, but beyond that, as people start to go, well, this is great, I can have this chat experience, but how do I really like in harness this technology and put it behind my work or my business? We work, so the way that we work is helping essentially companies and businesses and people build workflows that leverage AI through no-code platforms. So you don't need to, fine-tune ChatGPT or build your own large language model. We can access all that technology through platforms, and we essentially enable these companies and businesses to leverage that technology that way through prompt engineering, through building workflows and automations and things like that.
I love
Was
that.
was
Can you
that part of
tell
your?
me a little bit about what prompt engineering is for folks that maybe have never heard that before?
Yes. So prompt engineering is essentially when you're interacting with ChatGPT, that is you are putting in an instruction to ChatGPT, whether it's, you know, summarize this or generate this or do this, whatever action you're asking it to take. So that is like the first layer of how you interact with an AI to get a result. Prompt engineering takes it that level deeper, where you are getting really great at focusing the AI system on the output or the result that you want. So it isn't about creating or writing in code to be able to do that. It's about using natural language. There are ways and frameworks that these AI systems like ChatGPT or Claude, they respond better. So there are some techniques, which is part of what you learn as part of prompt engineering, but it's all natural language. It's all, if you can write your own, like in English, you can learn prompt engineering. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So, share with me, if you will, strategies that women in tech can adopt to use AI to advance their career,
Mhm.
particularly in leadership roles.
Yeah. I think there are a few elements. So there's the experimentation level, and then there's the education level, and then there's what I like to call elevation and empowering. So experimentation is just understanding what this technology is. And and again, it's like removing that barrier that I think that people who are might be misunderstanding, that they need to be a technical person or the AI person for their company. They have to be a technical person, but you don't. Every role, every business is going to become an AI business. And so we're all going to have to learn to work with this technology. Um, so, but first of all, you need to understand what that looks like. And that looks like experimenting. So starting to work with platforms like ChatGPT, understanding like what are the challenges and limitations, as well as what are the benefits of working with this platform. We know that we can like do things faster, but then that's when you start to understand, oh, it's like making things up. I didn't ask it for that, and that's called hallucination. And then you generate images, and it's like, well, that feels very biased because it's not representing, I ask for like a certain type of image, and I keep getting white men represented in all the images, that I'm asking for when I'm asking for, say, professional images of people at work. And you start to understand the biases and the limitations in these systems. Um, but then when you start to educate yourself, so that's part of the education process, and implementing what you're learning into your work on a daily basis, that is when really, you start to see the kind of like critical juncture of, oh wow, this having this as a co-pilot, like using AI to help me with my work on a daily basis, is when you really start to understand the ROI, like the return on investment of what you put in versus what you get out of these systems. And having yourself as a case study and understanding it deeply, this technology, in because you've experimented and you've upskilled and you're applying it in your own work, enables you to be the AI person and to take, be the lead in terms of the technology and enabling it for your teams and for other people, because you have that like experience and the practical hands-on experience of working with this technology.
Right. It takes it out of the hypothetical and into the practical once we actually start to play with it ourselves.
Exactly. And that's when you really discover, the use cases for your particular division and your team. So it's, I understand that for a lot of large organizations, it's very like cerebral and abstract because it's all on slides, our AI strategy.
Right.
But really, like your your work defines and how your business operates defines the strategy and where you want to go, not a slide deck. So
Yeah. Yeah. So we have about 12 minutes left. So, friends, if you have any questions for Sara, please do fire up the chat. We would love to hear from you. If you want to get some free consulting from a professional live on the air, drop those in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. Sara, in addition to yourself, can you
mhm.
share any success stories of women in tech that are disrupting the industry and achieving breakthroughs in their careers? You are a shining example. And if folks aren't following Sara on LinkedIn, do yourself a favor, do that, because Sara is doing what I like to call, or what we like to call, working out loud, right? Working in public. So Sara is a great, great example of that. So thank you, Sara, for doing that.
Yeah. I would have to say, so there are, some very well-known people who have really paved the way, but I really like to follow people who are a few steps ahead of me because that makes it, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a researcher, I don't have a PhD in AI. And so there's absolutely reverence and respect for the people who are achieving that. But I like to also feel like I can relate to people who are, just a few steps ahead of me. And
Mhm.
so people that I really look up to is like, if people have followed Rachel Woods, who is the founder and CEO of the AI Exchange. Actually, we met there, Hunter, um, which is a community for AI professionals to learn and to be able to apply AI. So I did a fellowship with under Rachel, who is an ex Meta data scientist. So I have tremendous amount of respect for her and her work and what she's been able to do and the people she's been able to impact and the professionals, the agencies that have launched from that community. So I feel like Rachel is a really great person for people to tap into and to follow. And she makes AI very accessible. She's got a big following on TikTok as well.
Mhm.
Um, Another person who is kind of on my radar that I would like to kind of follow a little bit more is Marilee Nika, I want to say. And she is also an instructor on Maven, the learning platform.
Mhm.
Um, and she is created a very successful niche for herself as like the the AI for product managers person. So this is to say, like, to give people the kind of insight that you can be that person for your industry or niche or whatever it is. You don't have to be a researcher or a doctor to necessarily like um do what other very well-known people do in the space. You can also, have your own space that you carve out for yourself here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Earlier, we were talking about with a previous speaker, Sienna Brown, speaking, and we use this language too, Sarah. We've kicked this around, speaking to our zone of genius, right? And what's so great about what you're talking about are these people have their zone of genius and they're using AI as a way to, one, get their message out and also help other people and niche down with
Yeah.
their zones of genius through the AI lens, right? They don't have to be a coder or a data scientist, but if you have expertise,
Yeah.
it can be applied to AI and AI can be applied to it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That is the key. I think is going to be even more the people who are really going to excel in this field is, and this is how we love to work, is we love to work with subject matter experts, because that is where the magic happens, is when you have deep subject matter expertise on a specific topic or zone of genius, and then you combine that with AI's power to scale. Like, that is really where the magic happens. And so that's a lot of what we do actually, for not necessarily on an individual level, but also for businesses, is like finding your secret sauce. Like, what's your secret sauce? What is your thing that is individual, that nobody else does quite like you, and being able to combine that with the power of AI. But for people who are in their, zones of genius and going, well, where I can't really quite see it, I can't really quite see how I could become the AI person. It is your subject matter expertise, and learning how you can combine that with the power of this technology is what's going to launch, I don't know, launch you out there, really.
Yeah, I love that. You heard it here first, folks. Power to fly and power to scale.
That's right.
So, as AI evolves, what would you say, Sara, are some suggestions you would share with all the women listening? What are some bold moves that they can make to ensure that they aren't just participants, but leaders in shaping the future of this industry? Because there's so many women leaders out there, but sometimes the men speak a little louder, and that's a problem.
Um, I think it is, so everything shifted for me when I backed myself. And I would love to see more women just be unapologetic about who they want to be and what they want to create in this field, and for themselves and for their futures in this world. Um, I think bold moves look like that. They start there, right? They start on the inside, and then it expresses from there. And so I feel like I would love to see, and maybe to give you an example, like I had that imposter syndrome as well, where I was like, well, I'm not a data scientist, I'm not a coder, I'm not a technical person. I don't really know where I kind of fit in, but just believing that you do, and making moves that kind of speak to that is where it starts. And then you figure it out as you go. So being involved, this is what led to being invited on stage here. This is what led to, like, speaking at AI global summits and working with some amazing businesses and brands, is from just defining, like, this is who I want to be in this space, and then owning it, and taking that space. And there is such a need for women to emerge as leaders in this space, because we are going through a disruption. It is a very, the way that we live and we work is changing. And I want to see more women have a voice, and put action behind it, to help define and shape what this new world looks like. So instead of being passive around this technology, is like taking an active role in it.
Yeah, amen to that. So we only have a couple minutes left, Sara. I'd love to hear about what you got coming up and the best ways for folks to reach out to you if they have more questions about AI, or if they want to learn more and take that active role that you're speaking about.
Yeah, I really believe in empowering people, not just through words, but through practice and education and implementation. And like, one of the most powerful ways to ensure that you have a space in this world is to actually be a person who knows how to work with this technology. And so we work with businesses to implement these technologies and to help them scale their businesses, but we're also teaching people how to do that. Now that we've got a number of runs on the board and we defined a system around how we do things, we're able to, help people upskill in terms of understanding what are the opportunities and how they can actually do this for themselves. So I guess the best place to connect with me is on LinkedIn these days. I would say my website, but I haven't really touched that in like a year. I
Yeah.
don't know. Our website's going to be relevant in the next 3 months, maybe.
We'll
I don't
see.
know. So I just keep waiting to see what happens with AI agents. So
Yeah. Yeah. And you have a course coming up, right? That you're teaching,
yeah,
and there's going to be
yeah.
it's a new thing that you've launched.
Yeah. We launched a how to scale a business with AI workflows. This is a foundations course that we've just started on the learning platform Maven. We actually started it this Monday. Got 53 people signed up from all sorts of backgrounds, from CEOs to, AI consultants who want to learn implementations to people who are just getting started with AI. And we're giving them the foundations of how to do this. And our next cohort starts, I feel like it's on October 14th or something.
Awesome. Awesome. So if
Yeah.
people reach out to you on LinkedIn, that's where they can find those dates and find
Yeah.
out more.
Yeah.
And on TikTok, you got quite the TikTok presence too. So they can find you. What are all your handles?
At Sara Davison or at the Sara Davison. The dot Sara dot Davison. I need to fix that.
All right. I've recently embraced my middle name, as you may have noticed. I've been going by Hunter Lee Canning. And it's a very pretty name that my mom gave me. So I want to honor that in the second half of my life. And two, there was only a couple other Hunter Cannings, but now they're popping up. Other
Oh,
people got eyes. So
yeah. Gotta watch out for that.
I'm
Trademark it.
you imagine if I'm like, sorry, cease and desist, mothers. Can't your children this.
Oh my gosh.
Well, Sarah, as we're wrapping up, is there anything else that you'd like to share or leave us with or speak to all the women listening today?
Um, I just want to see more women making moves and, making a difference in this field, no matter where you are, whether it's internally within a company, making yourself the AI person, just taking the lead on it, really, or whether you're wanting to start your own thing or your own business or an agency or consulting, this is the moment. Um, and I just want people to, I hope that me being someone who looks like me, who is a woman, who is a colored person, who is, you know, underrepresented and didn't have the traditional checklist that you might think that you need to succeed in this field. Um, that if I can do it, so can everybody else. So
Awesome. Sarah Davison, always a delight talking to you. Thank you for coming to Power to Fly. I
yeah,
hope we get you back. I know
yeah,
you're a very busy lady.
I appreciate you. Thank you. I will definitely be back if I'm invited.
Okay, great. You can count on it. We'll see you next time. Thank you,
All right.
Sarah.
Thank you so much.